I'm Jilly G. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you my gluten-free no-bake cheesecake. And I know it looks like I have a lot going on, but it really doesn't take very much. It's pretty simple, fast and easy. So I've got 3 lemons here. All I need is a third of a cup of lemon juice. Sometimes lemons are juicier than others, so I don't know that I'll need all 3 of these. Maybe I'll just need 2. Let's start with 1.5. Two lemons for my 3rd cup of lemon juice. So first thing we're going to do is make the crust. And I've got my oven preheated to 350. And a couple of weeks ago, I showed you gluten-free graham crackers. And I also mentioned that sometimes I'll freeze them for recipes like this. And usually when I make them, I'll usually do a double batch. And I've counted out that about 35 cookies, about this size, will give me the 2 cups of graham crackers, or gluten-free graham kind of crackers, that will be needed to make this crust. And this is a 9-inch pie dish. And this recipe is my Aunt Debbie's. And when we were kids, she made this pie for us, and we wanted it for birthdays ever since, instead of a birthday cake. And pie dishes, this was actually an 8-inch pie dish recipe. So the filling won't completely fill up my 9-inch pie dish. But I don't have any 8-inch pie dishes. So it works. But then if you have a topping that you want to put on, like a fruit topping or something, then you can just put that on and it will fill up the rest of the crust. Which I have cherries that I'm going to make a cherry topping in a little bit. So in a food processor, put in your cookies. And I usually break them up just to give them a head start. And I usually go about half of the cookies, process those, and then do the other half, just to make sure they're all fine crumbs. And these freeze so well. They've been in the freezer for a couple of weeks, and they're just like the day you made them. Of course, they're thawed. Don't take them right out of the freezer and make a crust. That looks like about half. If you don't have a food processor, you can do this in a plastic bag with a rolling pin. And so that's about 1 cup, and there's still some in here. It's so loud and messy. So we need 2 cups of graham cracker crumbs for this recipe, or you could do another cookie crumb if you have a favorite cookie crumb. It's really just a basic cheesecake flavor, so any crust would work. So I'm going to process the rest of my cookies. So there's 2 cups, and I probably have another half cup here. So give or take, in fact, I'll probably go a little bit more. And then save the rest of these for something else. You can put it in your yogurt, on ice cream, whatever you want. So I'm going to move all of this out of the way, and then I'll show you the rest of the crust. And about 1/4 teaspoon or a big pinch of salt. I'm actually going to start my sweetened condensed milk and come back to this in just a minute. In this little pan, I have 1/3 cup of water and about 2.5 tablespoons of butter. And I'm going to bring that up to a boil. And I showed you before that making homemade sweetened condensed milk with dry powdered milk and honey, so I don't have any sugar. If you don't want to make your own sweetened condensed milk, you can just use 1 can, is what it would be, a 14-ounce can. Or if you want to do this with regular sugar, I'll give you the equivalents for sugar. And while we're waiting for that to boil, I've got 1 8-ounce package of cream cheese, and it's been sitting on top of my oven, so it's at room temperature. So I've got about 6 tablespoons of butter that's really soft from also sitting on top of my stovetop. I'm going to melt that for the crust. And then I just have a tall glass that I can press my crust into my pie dish with. Hurry up and wait. There. Butter is melted. While we're waiting for the water, just pour in your butter, and you want your crumbs to look like wet sand. One thing I like about the food processor is it really gets these crumbs nice and fine. And you want to make sure your crumbs are all coated with the butter. There's no dry pockets of crumbs. And that's looking really good. And my water is up to a boil. These planes are so loud. So 1 cup of powdered milk to my melted butter and boiling water. And with just a little whisk, mix in your powdered milk. And you won't be able to get all of the little chunks out, but most of them. You don't want really big chunks, but it's okay if there's a few little ones. And the only way to do that is just to keep whisking. And once you've got this really mixed together where there's not really any big lumps, pour in a 1/3 cup of honey and give this a really good whisk. Mix all that honey in. If you were making this with white sugar, it would be a little paler in color. And you'll be able to see all the chunks of milk that you didn't get. And I said it was a no-bake cheesecake, which it is, but you still have to bake the crust. This will thicken up as it cools off, and so we want that to be cool enough, but then we also have to cook and chill our pie crust as well. So just dump in your crumbs. And then level it out, and then I just start in the middle with my cup and start pressing down. You want it to be even. And I just go around the edge with my cup and my finger to make sure it's staying at the top of the pie dish. But you'll notice my corners will be a little bit lacking. So I just bring some down and push that into the corner. Try to make sure it's in an even layer all the way around the sides. This is going to go into the fridge for 10 minutes to chill before we bake it. Give our sweetened condensed milk a stir. We can start on the filling, even though we're not ready for it yet. I'm just going to use my same spatula. I have really soft cream cheese here. 1 package, 8 ounces. And with a hand mixer, just mix this till it's really smooth. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Scrape down your bowl. Ooh. that aside. Our pie crust has been in the fridge for 10 minutes. And now we'll go into the oven again at 350 for about 7 to 8 minutes. Try not to disrupt your crust with your hot pads. So we want this to cool off to at least room temperature. It's okay if it's a little bit warm when we put the filling in, but you want it to be mostly cooled off, if not all the way cooled off. So while that's cooling off, and while our sweetened condensed milk here is also kind of cooling off and thickening up, we're gonna make our cherry topping. And I've got my saucepan here, and I've got 2 cups. It was a 16-ounce package of frozen cherries. And I thawed them out, and even if they're frozen, it doesn't matter because we're gonna cook them anyways. But it's about 2 cups, and you want the liquid in there as well. Turn your burner on about medium, almost medium high. And I've got 4 tablespoons of cornstarch, that always makes a mess, and a 1/4 cup of honey. And just give this a really good stir. And we want to cook this over medium heat, maybe just a little bit medium-high heat, until it's really thick. While you're waiting, you can clean up your mess. You could have put your cherries in a food processor and made them smaller pieces, but I kind of like the big chunks. Stir this constantly over medium heat until it's really thick, like this. Turn your heat off. I have a little bowl here, and it's really thick. If you need to, you can add a little bit of extra water to this, or you can even mash your cherries with a potato masher, but they kind of broke down a little bit already, and they're looking really good. You could even add a splash of lemon juice if you wanted. And depending on what kind of cherries you use, these were Bing cherries, so it's really dark. And even though it's hot, you want to cover it with plastic wrap. Once it's room temperature, we'll stick this in the fridge. If you buy the canned cherry topping or cherry pie filling, it's really thick and gloopy like this, and it's bright red. But I like the darker cherries. So let this cool off. I'm going to give my filling a good mix before I add in my sweetened condensed milk and lemon juice. And my pie crust is almost cool enough. So by the time I'm finished mixing all of this together, we can put this in our pie shell, and then it just has to chill and firm up a little bit. So give your sweetened condensed milk a good stir. And pour it in to your cheese. Pour it into your cream cheese and vanilla. And give this a really good mix. Scrape down your bowl and the bottom and the spatula and mix again. Now for our 1/3 cup of lemon juice, on low speed, pour in your lemon juice. Once your lemon juice is poured in, you can turn your speed up to medium. Scrape down your bowl, and it's already thickening up pretty good. If you ever make homemade sweetened condensed milk, you'll notice it's thinner than what you would get in a can, but it still works the same. So bring over our cooled pie dish, and then we'll just pour in our filling. Kind of level it out a little bit. And the top doesn't have to be perfect. It will kind of hold its shape, so you'll be able to see the design that you make. So you want to at least smooth it out. And then you want to cover this with plastic wrap. Some of my little crumbs have fallen into my filling, and that's fine. And this doesn't need to go directly on. In fact, you don't want the plastic wrap to touch the filling. It will stick. So we're gonna stick this in the fridge at least 4 hours. You could make this early in the morning. 4 to 6 hours is perfect for it to hold the slice. You could go overnight if you want to, but 4 to 6 hours is usually good. My cheesecake has been chilling for about 4 hours, and my cherry topping is cool too. I usually stir it up really good. It's really thick. If you like a thinner topping, you would just add a little bit more liquid when you're cooking it, or some lemon juice or something like that to thin it out, or even less cornstarch. But I like it pretty thick. And my plastic kind of touched the top of my cheesecake, but that's fine. And some of my crumbs fell in, and that's fine too. Very carefully. Woo. Making a mess of this first one. Some of our cherry topping here. Even though my crust split a little bit, the first piece is always the hardest to get out. It's the perfect no-bake cheesecake. And you would think with all that lemon juice it would be really lemony, but it's not. It's just the right amount. And my cherry topping is perfect. Not too sweet, not too tart. But it's really good. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next one.